Alright, hello everyone, I'm Randy, and today we are going to do a sourdough recipe test. For a little while now, I've been struggling to get a decent strength in my dough with a good crumb that I like, and I thought that we would take some time and do some tests with some other recipes. So today we are going to test the use of diastatic malt powder and vital wheat gluten and how it affects our breads. So I'm going to be using a 77% hydration recipe and the same proportion of ingredients for everything except for the two ingredients that we're testing for. So this is going to be 400 grams of flour with 60 grams of starter each and 308 grams of water. So I'm going to get these mixed together and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, and I forgot to mention, but I'm using King Arthur bread flour. And to this one, on this side, we're going to add some salt and 1 gram of diastatic malt powder, this one here. And I'm just going to whisk that in. And to this one on this side, we are going to add some salt and 22 grams of vital wheat gluten. This is to help raise the protein content of our bread and hopefully give us a stronger dough. Okay, that's all mixed in. We don't need the scale anymore. And I'm going to add the flour right on into the water. And I went ahead and mixed the water and the starter in together already. And in case you're wondering, it's a 50-50 of whole wheat starter and all-purpose starter. And we're going to do the rest with our hand. And I can tell this already feels quite a bit drier than the high hydration usually does, so I hope that's a good sign. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. So the purpose of the diastatic malt powder is to give us a softer crumb and a harder crust. So we will see if that happens. Now I'm going to mix this in by hand like before. And this one is feeling quite a bit wetter than the other one, so I think the vital wheat gluten has made a pretty big difference already. Okay, now we're going to let these sit for 10 minutes covered and then we'll come back and do a pre-shape. Okay, it is now a little bit later in the day and we're going to shape our first dough. This one here is the one I made with the diastatic malt powder and we're going to shape it into a boule. Alright, and now this will go into the banneton. Perfect, good shape. And we'll cover it in plastic. And we'll cover it with a towel. And we'll cover it with a towel. And this one's going in the fridge. Okay, now for the one we made with Vital Wheat Gluten, I am going to shape this one into just a regular long loaf in this kind of banneton with a liner. And you can see this one is quite a bit less fluid because it is quite a bit tighter of a dough, which is what we're going for with the wheat gluten. And we're going to just stretch it a little bit into a nice rectangle as much as we can. And I'm going to do a very similar shape, but instead of going round with it, we're going to just do a nice long loaf. And this is just rice flour that I'm using. I found that the rice flour works quite a bit better than wheat flour for lining the bannetons. My doughs don't really get stuck like they used to. Another pretty good shape. I think we could be a little bit tighter there, but it should be good enough for testing. And same thing, we're going to cover with plastic. We're going to cover it with a towel. And this one goes in the fridge too. And we'll see you tomorrow for bake time. Okay, it is now officially time to bake. My doughs have been in the freezer for a half hour, and I'm going to grab them and we'll start prepping them. Okay, and if I recall, the one in the loaf was the Vital Wheat Gluten, and we'll put that one right here. Comes out nice and easy. And this one here is the one with the Diastatic Malt powder. And you can see they come out nice and easy. I always like to brush my breads, get the flour off of them, so that we get a nice shiny brown crust. So I'm gonna just do that now. And you can see the one that was in the bowl banneton has a nice texture because we don't use a liner in that one. I'm thinking about taking the liner out of the loaf pan, or the loaf banneton, just so we get that texture on it too, but I haven't done that yet. So we're gonna just brush all of this off. I like to brush all of the flour out onto the counter and then use my bench scraper to clean it up afterwards. It's a lot easier to take care of that way. And I don't like to leave it on the parchment paper just in case it burns or catches on fire or anything. I don't want to risk it. Okay, and now I'm going to work pretty quick, but we're going to spray these, we're going to score them. I'll put them on the pan and then they'll go in the oven for 20 minutes. And for when I bake breads on an open pan, I like to score them as much as possible, or I like to spray them as much as possible. I do have a pan of water in there, but I get as much moisture as I can. Okay. Now we'll slide that onto our pan. And we'll give them one more spray. And they go in the oven now for 20 minutes. Yeah. It is now time for the mid-bake reveal, so I'm going to grab the breads out of the oven and we'll take a look at them. Okay, they both look like they've got some pretty good oven spring, though the Vital Wheat Gluten one has a lot more, about this much versus this much on the other one, but we're going to put them back in the oven now. And they're going to cook for 10 minutes, and we'll check back in 10 minutes. Okay, it's now been about 45 minutes of baking, and we're going to pull them out of the oven now. The one that we made with the diastatic malt powder is a lot shorter than the one with the Vital Wheat Gluten, and more importantly, the oven spring on this one is very small compared to our oven spring on this one was quite a bit more. We're gonna let these cool completely and then we'll cut them open and see what the crumbs look like. So I'll see you in a couple hours. It's the next day. These sat to cool overnight and we've cut them open, and you can see that the one with the Vital Wheat Gluten rose a lot more than this one. They're both pretty equally squishy, have a very similar crumb, and they both taste about the same. So I think in future I would probably add both ingredients to the same bread. And yeah, overall I think it was a successful experiment and we got some really good bread out of it. But that's it for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Okay, it is now officially time to bake.